Defund the police? Yep, police once again defunding themselves. A federal jury has awarded $100 million to an elderly man who was tasered by the police, busted his head, and is paralyzed from the neck down because a cop decided to break protocol, to violate the law, and to violate this citizen. Here's part of the video.
This encounter between Atlanta police officer Jon Grubbs and Jerry Blasingame, who was 65 years old at the time, all started with this.
Hey! He was panhandling, and the police, of course, rolled up on him, chased him, and then ran after him.
The victim's legal team says the officer struck Blasingame in his back when he was about 10 feet away from the officer.
Jerry then fell, again, face forward, face planted, and smashing his head, multiple facial fractures, brain injury, and broke his neck.
Sir.
This body camera footage shows Blasingame unconscious and motionless.
The man was not even under arrest. Let's put up the picture of the individual who was the victim of the Atlanta police, Jerry Blasingame, 69 years of age. He's poor. He was poor. So he was asking for money. And APD just considered this to be, I guess, a horrific crime and decided to engage this senior citizen, and it led to his paralysis. Well, the jury has now said the city owes $100 million to him and his family. 69-year-old man in Atlanta who sustained a life-changing injury after he was tased by the police has been awarded a 9-figure judgment by a jury. Civil rights advocates note that despite the historic victory, the officer who the court decided used excessive force is still employed by the city of Atlanta. Let's put up his picture. Now, I want everybody to know Officer Jon Grubbs here. You see Officer Jon Grubbs, he works for the city of Atlanta. He decided to physically harm a senior citizen, an elderly man who's poor, who's in poverty. Let me say this to you, young brother. In my opinion, you deserve to go to jail. Let's put his picture back up. I want people to remember him. You deserve to be in jail. You're not. You got lucky because of an industry that's willing to protect you rather than protect citizens. When you signed up to be an APD cop, when you went to the academy, I'm sure your mama was proud of you. I'm sure members of your family said encouraging things to you. Did they ever think that you would damn near kill a senior citizen because he's poor? Did you think you would be in this position? Now, I got more background to this story. Jerry Blasingame's conservator, his name is Keith Edwards, sued the city of Atlanta, the Atlanta Police Department, and one of his officers, that guy you just saw, Jon Grubbs, on behalf of his client, filing the civil suit in the US District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. This was back May 7th, 2019. The ask was for his medical bills, both past and present and future, acquired as a result of the police-involved injury that made him a quadriplegic with little use of his arms, to be covered by the defendants. You know, the city of Atlanta, the Atlanta police, they had an opportunity right here to simply do the right thing. They could have said, you know what? We will cover the medical expenses because that's the least we could do. They decided not to. They decided to push this all the way to trial. You know how many cases go to trial in federal court? Less than 1%. Less than 1%. They decided to push this liability all the way to a jury. And the jury decided to award not only compensatory, but also punitive, which means they wanted to punish the city of Atlanta police for what they did. There's more. A federal grand jury sided with the 69-year-old, saying that Officer Grubbs used an unreasonable amount of force, violated police department policy, and violated his civil rights when he tased the elderly man in the back after he ran away from Grubbs on July 10th, 2018. Mr. Blasingame was awarded a total of $100 million. Breaking it up, $60 million coming from the APD, 40 million coming from the cop himself. Now, will he ever get to see the 40 million? Of course not, because cops are not mandated to carry liability insurance as a medical doctor would. The Georgia division of the NAACP described the award as the largest in an individual civil case connected to civil rights violations by law enforcement. Johnson said, "We are very, very grateful to this amazing jury and so proud of the amazing work they've done in holding this officer accountable and getting justice for Mr. Blasingame." One of the lawyers representing Atlanta and the officer, Stacey J. Miller, maintained throughout the trial, while the man's injuries are unfortunate and tragic, the officer was within his rights to use the taser based on his judgment. She argued it was not a case of intentional excessive force, but a consequence of his acceptable policing based on his assessment of exigent circumstances that could endanger others. Exigent circumstances, you say. So there's an admission here that this officer violated the norms of policing. There's no question about it. There's no question that this officer's conduct, the intentional conduct, led to the paralysis and damn near death of a senior citizen. No question. And the defense was, well, the reason he broke protocol is because this was, one of those exigent circumstances. Really? Running after poor Black men who are elderly qualifies as an exigent circumstance, according to the defense. Sounds like baloney, right? That's exactly what the jury said. That's why they awarded $100 million to the elderly man. According to the lawsuit, Blasingame was asking for money near Windsor Street, close to downtown Atlanta, when he encountered Officer Grubbs and another cop. He, an unarmed Black man, was walking up to cars making his petition. The two cops arrived to hold and told him to stop. Due to the tase and subsequent fall, the elderly man became unconscious and was bleeding profusely from his head. The complaint read, 11 Alive reports, Johnson said, since he's not under arrest, he can run or do whatever he wants to do, Johnson said. Jerry then fell again, face forward, face planted in, smashing his head, multiple facial fractures, brain injury, and broke his neck. The injured man has accrued more than 14 million in medical bills and now requires 24-hour care at a residential facility because of his injuries, and his future care is anticipated to be approximately $1 million per year for the rest of his life. Now, I'm sure you're upset, right? I'm upset. This is gonna make you even more upset. This cop is still employed by APD. APD records show and state this cop was placed on administrative leave initially, and the department launched what they call a deep dive into the case. However, 6 months before an internal investigation was even completed, he was allowed to go back to work on the street. So now let me bring something home for everybody. 100 million, remember that number. Where are the people who are anti-defund the police? Where are the conservatives who don't want money taken away from cops? You see, everybody's okay with defund the police until an issue like this creates, let's say, a nuance in the argument. Black Lives Matter, they say defund the police. I'm good with that because I understand what it means. It means reprioritize the policing budget. But when a cop actually does defund the police, when a cop actually takes money away from the police, where's that conservative faction? You see, it's not about the money. They want you to think they don't want money taken away from policing. They don't want budgets to shrink. They want you to think they care. They want you to think they care about your taxpayer dollars. They don't. They care about the narrative. That's what they care about. As long as the narrative is still police heavy. Remember, they are willing to allow a cop who has just cost them a $100 million liability to still have a gun and walk on the streets of Atlanta as a cop. It's not about the money. Who in the hell will allow someone who just cost your agency $100 million to continue to operate in their profession? Nobody. Nobody would do that except for the police. Because it's not about the money. It's about the narrative. The narrative. This cop, put his picture back up. Still carrying a gun, a taser, and gainfully employed by the city of Atlanta. All right? Okay. Sharon, thoughts on this case?
This federal jury wanted to send a message with the $100 million. They thought they were really doing something big. It sounds really, really big. But you know what? It's not. I don't know anyone who would raise their hands and say, give me $100 million and I'll be a prisoner in my own body, which is what Mr. Blasingame's lawyer said. He's got no ability to move freely anymore. All because he was asking for what? Some change? Few dollars. It's time for everyone to go on trial here. The city council president, instead of asking for this award to be reduced, Dr. Richey, they should have dumped this guy. They should have dumped this guy, Officer Grubbs, like he was, a wife who cheated on you and ran up your Amex. They should have got rid of him, said, we want nothing, we're with you, Mr. Blasingame. We want nothing to do with this. But here we are, and he looks like a bully. And I'll say one last thing to you. You said his mother must have been proud of him, people perhaps in his family. I think there probably were people who said, oh no, he's gone to the academy. Oh no, don't give him a gun and a badge. He's probably been a bully his whole life, because there's something special about a guy who runs after a senior citizen who looks very pleasant, even in his current state. Had a little smile on his face because he was asking for a few ducats.
Yep. Yeah, it's a damn shame. We're going to continue to follow this. We have to apply pressure for public servants to be accountable to the public. All right, so that's why we highlight these stories.